Okay, I believe we are live at this point. How's everybody doing? This is a grumpy old guy. Grumpier than usual old guy. And yeah, it's time to do a little gaming. Let's go ahead and... I usually don't have music on when I'm playing because I'm a monster. Actually, it's because I'm usually listening to a podcast or other music in the background, but I'm streaming today and going to turn the music back on just a little to have a little something in the background to break up me constantly talking. Also, probably going to turn the effects down a little here. 1 seems good. That's nice and low. 2's about where, 2's about where I'll push it to. Sound effects. Oh yeah, that can go all the way down to 1 there. Yeah, that's a good balance. If somebody prefers one more or the other, feel free to let me know. And for those who are unaware, this is Final Fantasy Renaissance. It is a fan remake of Final Fantasy I in Unity. This version was an update that came out just after the new year, and it allows you to just do solo play with 3 empty slots rather than trying to go through the hassle of making 4 characters and letting 3 of them die off. So I'm running Teal'co, the Red Mage. Thought I was ready to hit the Cave of Marsh. I did that before, and it did not work out super well, so we're just going to do a bit more leveling today and just some random chat. Getting to the point where I've got the spells relatively fleshed out. We're going to go ahead and throw Invisible on ourselves. This is actually my second attempt at a solo Red Mage run. The first time I went super crazy build and did New Game Plus, which lets you start out with the leveled up job class and everything, and that was fantastic for effects because I had access to blanket first level and whatnot. But it quickly turned out to be more hassle than it was worth. Just was not making progress like I needed to. Now we've got invisibility and darkness going, so the hit percentage should be nice and low, I say, as I take 2 out of 3 hits. Did grind my way up to the Silver Sword as well, so the attack's about as high as it's going to get for pre-Mystic Key Red Mage. Final Fantasy I is one of those games that I just fall back on all the time. It is a great comfort game for me. Not the most popular as far as viewership goes. I remembered starting a traditional gameplay of it maybe a year or 2 ago, and that thing drew... I mean, it didn't even draw flies. Geist. The bane of a solo run, the undead. Yep, paralyzed right away. The stun lock is real. This could actually be a game over. Because no matter what you do, you need that rare thing where they hit first, and then you get out of paralysis and strike first the next time. On the bright side, it gives me a little time to take a bit of a break there. There's a kill. Now it's at least level odds. We took a fair bit of damage there, just going through this dance. Very cloudy day outside. Like, this is one of the most Pennsylvanian weather patterns coming up that I could think of. It's 40 degrees out there today. It says the high is supposed to get near into the 50s. I don't think we're going to see very far into the 50s at this point, because I just don't know if these clouds are actually going to break up. It just seems like it's going to be cool and rainy all day. And then tomorrow's high is 80 degrees. Okay, got out of paralysis there. Let's see if we can get an attack off. We did, and it wasn't a kill. So we got to try again. Brutal. Brutal. Let's just run. Okay, ogres and creeps. Not so bad. We're going to fire 2 to get rid of the creeps here. That should put enough chip damage on the ogre. Gotta watch, hit points are getting kind of low too. May have to burn a slot on Cure 2 here after this battle. Definitely going to have to. We're under 100. Decent experience, decent gold. That's kind of the dream battle. Okay, from this point on, we got to be real efficient with our spells. And that means let our level 4s do the work for us. We're going to confuse these wolves. Now, one of the nice things they did, Renaissance Studios, the fine folk that put this out, the guy who was working on it really wanted to sort of bring some depth to the classes, even the core classes like the Thief, which was more of a labor of love to use the Thief in Final Fantasy. The first Final Fantasy, you basically used it because you knew it turned into a ninja. And the Red Mage, while it's probably my favorite class, just didn't have access to the more powerful magics, and that was always sort of the kind of unspoken knock on it. It was good, but only to a certain extent, and after that it was just kind of an item holder for late game. I always loved the versatility. My sort of go-to party formation for traditional run-throughs was always fighter, thief, monk, and red mage. Of course, back then it was called the black belt, the monk. Just because it got insanely high damage as a level, didn't really need much in the way of gear. It was a fairly good out of the gate party. But yeah, by the end of it, red mage was just kind of the heal staff guy. Picking up a nice bit of gold here too. Easy for me to say. Probably going to flesh out our level 4s. By then we should have more slots too. Okay, this should be fun. I'm going to burn a Confuse right away here just to see how long I can get these ogres punching each other and or themselves. Both are successfully confused. I wonder if the messaging's going a little fast there. After this battle, I'll go ahead and turn that down a little too. Another nice thing they did was really make this customizable. So if I'm reading that right, the top ogre tried to punch itself and missed. That is confusion at its best. Just imagine those guys looking down and saying, ah, an ogre. Options, preferences, battle message speed. Let's go ahead and turn that down to a 6. It gets dog slow under like 4. Okay, we have an asp here. And we're poisoned, because of course we are. I believe I have pure as a level 4 spell too. So we're going to really run up those level 4 slots just because I'm cheap and I don't want to spend money on an antidote. No, I did not buy Pure yet, so. Guess I know what we're getting when we get back to town. 4 arachnids. Simple. Let's fire to it. Yeah, that should be much more reader friendly. And if it isn't, feel free to let me know. Been sort of a quiet week around here. Got caught up with a bunch of stuff around the house. It was looking like another D&D-less week. No tabletop RPG stuff. And then out of the blue, I got a call, and I may be running a one-shot tonight. So, such is the way life works sometimes. We'll try to fire 2 of these again. I don't know why, but the ogre has always worried me far more than the creep. The creep, though, hits just as hard. Like, it's a smaller enemy, and it's one you see far more prevalently in early game. Like, you can run into those right at the beginning. Temple of Chaos, you're running into creeps as a low percentage chance. It's kind of like your challenge enemy. Though, in all honesty, the real challenge enemy is when you roll 9 undead. Hey, Roy, how you doing today? Glad you stopped in. Just doing a nice casual Final Fantasy grinding run today. Playing a little solo red mage. Also, for those of us of certain age, just the ability to sprint in town in Final Fantasy 1 is an untold blessing. Okay, back to it, and back to the fire too, because we know that is torching the creeps. I don't know whether it's just a higher damage threshold because it's a level 4 spell, but I always felt that ice worked better on the ogre. That may just be me subconsciously thinking because it always worked well on the hill giants in the earth cave. And just saying big enemy hate ice. Taking our shots out of the gate on those. But that's all right because they pay well. See, this I don't mind so much. The dream is actually 2 ogres and a creep, because that's perfect confusion territory, and it's really the ogres that pay well. Wow, we actually got a big hit on the fire too on the ogre there, so that was a nice quick 1-round victory. Now let's save a spell slot. I think we're going to save some cash too. Do a little aquatic adventure here, take the ship back up to Corneria or Cornelia, depending on the version you played. I believe it's translated to Cornelia in the Final Fantasy Origins version, probably more of the more modern translations as well. Traditionally, it was Corneria in the original Final Fantasy. I don't know if that's just a Japanese to English thing that they slipped up on, and, you know, the old school of us just don't want to let go of that. I'm personally fine with it either way because it's Town 1, and Town 1 is everybody's favorite town. Especially in games like this where it means it's the cheapest in. Went 3 out of 4 on the sleep spell. Not mad about that. That gives us a target right away. We know at least one wolf woke up. But we won't know which until this round of combat, so let's just swing one. Now we know it's that one. And now they're all awake. That did buy us a turn. Sleep is like the go-to early game spell for Red Mage in this. Ridiculously effective. The first 5 levels. Wolves are terrible payouts. As you'd expect, because there's really no place for them to keep a wallet. I got some Sahagin, and more importantly, got First Strike. Gonna fry these suckers. I mean, absolutely no chance stood there. Which I'm fine with. Actually progressed a decent amount into the early game at this point. Cave of Marsh just seems to be death of solo Red Mage run, though. My New Game Plus run died out about this point, and I was up about level 28, level 30 range. When I attempted the cave, I got down to the room with the 3 wizards. For those who are unaware, and this is going to be a quick spoiler warning for a 34-year-old game, the wizards in Final Fantasy I aren't wizards as in spellcasters. They're mind flayers, which are, giant, humanoid things with, not giant, but they're imposing humanoid things with octopus heads that just sort of, well, they love you for their brain, for your brains. In fact, they'll eat your brains right out of the skull. So these things actually don't have magic, but they hit like a truck. And no exception in New Game Plus. I went in just about full health at level 30 to the trap tile with the wizard battle set. The wizards are guarding the crown. And I made it out of the first round with 5 hit points. Now this game caps at level 50. And I'm assuming that I did not have the best luck. But that quickly told me that I'm going to need the best luck from that point on. And so it was a real quick decision to just sort of take a step back and play on normal difficulty instead of New Game Plus. Because I can't imagine needing to be max level for basically the entirety of the game. We'll fire to this. Werewolves can poison, that's never fun. Though we do have the Pure spell now. Been getting caught up on yard work. Around here is nice and easy. I don't have a big yard. We share it with my wife's aunt and uncle next door, and they are super good, like the best. So most of the time I just have to touch up a fence line, and that's about it. Every now and then I feel lucky when I could beat them to the yard mowing and get my yard mowed. But I've been taking care of my parents' yard too, and that's a bit more hilly. The land is notoriously stubborn. So that usually ends up being about a good 4 or 5 hour jag. I'm hoping to cut it down a little now that we've got those first good cuts out of the way, but it does grow kind of crazy. Just looking at the good old spring rain out there and thinking just how bad tomorrow is going to be. think we'll grind a little bit more here and just get our items back up a bit. Let's do a confuse just for giggles. Nothing like getting the enemies to work for us. Well, that was quick. Literally gave us a turn. Level 4 magic, folks. The creep usually doesn't stay confused too long, but then it usually doesn't stay alive too long. Ogres, if you're lucky, you can get a good 3-4 rounds out of if need be. Of course, the hope is by the time you're buying level 4 slots, you don't need that kind of time to do damage. I was absolutely expecting to be poisoned there. There it is. Of course, the nice thing about it is once you're poisoned, you can't get more poisoned in this game. Time to make our way back. Got a couple thousand banked. Not sad about that. Had a fragment project in the works. Pretty sure I'm scrapping it though. Not really anything bad, just it wasn't working out the way I had envisioned it. And to be honest, I kind of want to play the character more than make the project. It was kind of a drastic step. Sort of did a soft reboot of Dionysius. Wasn't the plan outright, but it was kind of the way it had to go. I'm still used to buying these one at a time out of the menu. I just can't convince myself to actually buy them using multiples in the menu. I have to sort of remind myself that's a thing every now and then. Oh, another thing I wanted to check out here. So the first gravestone up here actually has engraving on it. And the traditional stuff was a nod to Dragon Quest. It said, "Here lies Erdrick." And then I believe it turned into a Nintendo wink and nod in later revisions. I want to say the Final Fantasy Origins had this as "Here lies Link." And this one says, "Here lies Sid," who was apparently 33. That's frightening. And then this just says this is a tomb. It's not, it's a headstone. It is not a tomb. Never do that again. Not arguing with first strike on an asp. Also going out of my way to enunciate that P for, reasons. 2 ogres. When we see 2 ogres, we must confuse. Man, they both really hate that bottom guy. Confusion wore off the top one, probably because of all the stabbing we just did. But now he gone. Love getting paid to watch 2 ogres stare at each other and sort of swing half-heartedly. I really wish I would have captured the pirate battle in Provoca with this character, because it went stupid well. Well, let's burn a couple spells here. Invisible, just to see if we can get some misses out of it. Invisible doesn't work nearly as well as it seems. Like 40 points of evasion sounds like a lot, but one, it's taking us forever to get it cast. And two, they just hit anyway. Blink at 80 seems to be pretty effective. But you can't use Blink as a red mage. You have to be a red wizard. Have to level that class up. Sort of left a level 1 spell for when job change comes about. At this point, I'm just sort of farming some experience to get to a point where that's a thing. See, we're getting some misses out of this. Now we have the invisible and the darkness going. I'm not sure the numeric value that darkness lowers accuracy. But going hand in hand with invisible, it seems to be working out to our benefit. And it took 2 rounds to set up. That's how I handled the pirate battle, actually. One wolf just got sick of this shit and left. I can say I have been amazed the last month. The back catalog of fragment videos has really been getting some attention. A couple people in particular have been perusing, and that's been great. I do love when people comment on videos like 2 and 3 years old, because I have to go back and see what exactly the video was about, just to make sure that I've got the context right when I reply. And those were some good times making those. I was kind of spoiled running Fragment in 2020, 2021, as heavy as I was able to. And with everything going on, the functional BBS, a full-blown ARG made by a member of the community. And that's 2 more very confused ogres down. You almost get Indiana Jones syndrome through here. Like, every time you see those, it's like, why did it have to be snakes? Not even that miffed about them, just sort of weary. Like, not these guys again. Okay, we're getting a decent amount here. I think we'll do 1 more gold run here. Maybe end a little early and head northward to Corneria again, and just sort of get ourselves set up with some more potions and whatnot. Need to buy a couple tents, and then I think we'll start taking our chances with the old Cave of Marsh. That way, if something goes wrong, we have a respawn point right next to the cave. Which is actually how this stream opened up, and then I was a big dummy and decided to move away from that. Always good to get that gray wolf out of the way early. And it seems like the regular ones just care not to fight. Which I'm fine with, because you're never getting rich off wolves. 28 gold. That's it. Yeah, I know it's gil, but it's gold. It is video game currency. Let's just take this nice and easy. We have 7 level 1 slots. Let's use one. I believe it caps at 7. There were some versions that came out with an easy mode that let you get into double digits on them. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Vancian magic system with the spell slots in general. Ever since D&D has sort of hit the 45 to 50 year range, calling the spell slots and memorization of magic Vancian magic as a nod to Jack Vance and the Dying Earth series has become far more in vogue. Before, it was always the reference to how magic was set up in Dungeons and Dragons. Just you hear people referencing it a lot more as such. Which is great because then people can sort of look and see that, you know, Vecna is it's another nod to Jack Vance. That's the name all scrambled up. And then you get your Stranger Things tie-in, and everyone's like, oh, there's a fair bit here to dig into. I'm a much bigger fan of just, you know, mana pools and just casting that way because it's the easiest. Murakami, happy weekend to you too. Thank you very much for the well wishes. I was just talking about some of those fragment deep cuts you've been digging up lately, and I do appreciate that, as well as I appreciate you stopping in and the well wishes. Oh, we'll try more sleep here. Should have fire 2'd it. Not really hitting our high experience battles here either. Now it's just a matter of how many of these gray wolves we can pick off before we start getting beat up. So you can see we got a few of them waking up there. Probably everything will be awake this round. Got a gray wolf to run. So the power level is theoretically there. There are certainly classes that are much more adept at a solo run. The aforementioned black belt or monk, for instance, by the time it's level 10, like, you have all the equipment you'll ever need. Red Mage, in particular, in Renaissance mode, for all of its pluses, is probably the worst in the way of a solo run. They added in Renaissance Studios. When I say they, in that instance, that's who I'm talking about. They added in a limit break system for your higher up jobs and everything. And the limit for Red Mage is literally refreshing the limit of another character. So it's literally a wasted ability here. You do have the ability to swap spell slots of different levels. So you're never really out of spell slots you need as long as you have other ones. For instance, those 7 level 1 slots could easily be level 3s when I run the Marsh Cave, if need be. Now, remembering that the menu works. Let's buy about 5/10. Because they're not the craziest, most greatest thing ever, but they're useful. This guy here is a newer addition. He's the guy who lets you know about the quests to unlock your limit breaks and everything, which you have to do after your job change. But I think my favorite thing is in earlier versions of this game, the Red Mage didn't really have one. So he just sort of poked fun at you for being greedy. Now, of course, he's letting me know about, changing displayed character, which you could do with one click of a button when you're not running solo. Back in the day, you had to hit the old select button and do it the old-fashioned hard way. Now you don't have to. You used to have to go to this screen and then pick another character. With Final Fantasy Renaissance, it's just click of a button and you could do it, and neither one's going to look like anything because, again, this is a solo run. For those just popping in, welcome. We're doing some level grinding with my solo Red Mage save file in Final Fantasy Renaissance. Just wanted to play it because every now and then I just kind of get into a funk, and this is one of these games that I fall back on and just sort of makes me feel better about everything. I'm going to do a really silly thing here, and I'm just going to burn spells like crazy on these Kazoku because they pay a ton of gold. And then I'm just going to run back to the inn in Corneria. So we'll confuse them, and then we'll fire them. Probably one of my favorite encounters to get out of the chute, because you're getting money out of this. And the reason I confused them was to sort of lessen their chance of running away. Nice, hit some triple digit there. Yeah, net profit of 330 gold. Essentially covered 5 of the potions we just bought in one combat. Not sad about that. Okay. Sahagin, easy to deal with. We actually got a kill off Lightning 2 on a shark. Need to hit about 120 or so damage on that. Let me double check on the old bestiary or bestiary here. Hey, we hit 16. Awesome. Tangible hit points up too. This may take a second to load. Does not transition the smoothest, but one thing I love when they added the bestiary in is that they took the form of the bestiary that used to be on the back of the old fold-out map. I think I destroyed the one that we had at my parents' house just from the folding and unfolding. This was a game I literally studied the material on. Would take the book, which is still upstairs in my house. It's actually sitting on my son's desk. The original game manual for Final Fantasy from the Nintendo. I think the cartridge may be down here, but I bought a second cartridge, and ironically, I think cartridge 2 is back at my parents' with a Nintendo. I'd bought them years back to replace theirs when it burnt out. But yeah, the shark there, 120 max hit points. Got the attack all and everything. Can be controlled, yes. Uses learnable blue magic, no. They added the blue mage class in to Renaissance mode here too, so you could actually look that stuff up and see if you can learn a skill from a monster. That way you're not, trying to track everything down with the blue mage. It's probably one of the, I want to say Blue Mage and Trainer are, oh, you can learn Gaze. Nice. Because what other thing does it do? The Trainer, you can turn this game into Pokemon, just catch monsters and have them fight for you. More of a Dragon Quest thing. As far as this style of RPG goes, I think Dragon Quest V had the trainer battle thing. Wizardry 4 had a touch of that too, where you were playing as the resurrected Wardna trying to escape the dungeon you were defeated in. We're just going to hack at these guys. Because we're big bad level 16 now. I think we may go for one more level on stream. But we're going to vary it up a little. A little old school there with the traditional pacing of Final Fantasy movement. Let's see how much experience we need to get there. Almost 10,000. So yeah, this is going to take a minute. But that's okay. If you got the time, I got the red mage. Start hacking away here. Going to try and conserve spells unless it's absolutely necessary to cast. Because we're going to use a tent at the cave for a quick save, and that's going to give us some hit points back, but no spell slots. Of course, all bets are off if we run into undead. As we established with just 2 Geists earlier, any paralyzing undead is risking a stun lock that can wipe us. So the danger level much higher on those things. Just like when you run into like basilisks and cockatrice down in the dungeon levels and they can turn you to stone, that's one unlucky hit away from game over. The soft reset feature has been my friend on this solo run. Sorry, I had to clear my throat there. Especially at earlier levels, just trying to grind some levels over by Provoca there, because your equipment is kind of jank at that point. Even when you do upgrade, it's like to a short sword. So there was a lot of soft reset looking for favorable battles. Here we go. Let's fire to it. Hope for the best. Roll early. Nice thing is they're not super high hit point. So we get our nice clean board wipe and it looks far too easy. Nice payout too, 468. So one spell. We can't be mad at one spell. Let's go ahead. Get our tent set. Get our nice save music going there. That is, of course, the place where if you're playing on traditional hardware, you got to turn it off while holding in the reset button or else. And instantly we run into a scary battle. The bones aren't the big thing. It's the crawlers. They're not going to hit for a ton of damage right away, but man, that paralyze. So I get a nice little break from the controller here. Still paralyzed heading into round 3. I think we took a critical hit there. And we're paralyzed. Monsters are actually doing us a favor getting all these hits in early. We just have to recover from paralysis on our turn, and that's just not the thing. We're recovered, but now the crawls get a free shot at us. Chance to paralyze us again. That 200 hit point level held out far longer than it should have. Let's fire to this. Once again, hoping to get out of the gate early here. And we didn't. And we are paralyzed again. Second verse, same as the first. Persistence is the key. Did get our spell off. And oh, watch him go. The bones have like 5 hit points. Those were not the worry. We got out one of the crawls, and we severely injured another one. So now it's a one-on-one battle between us and paralysis, with a monster attached. Uh-oh, indeed. That'll happen. In fact, it just did. Use a couple potions there. I can't even remember if we can open this right now. Gotta fire to the scum, because the scum have ridiculously high physical defense. We'd be hitting for like 1 damage. Whereas fire 2 is going to hit well into the hundreds. I think they have like 50 hit points or something in that range. I think this just leads to some treasure rooms. Not even sure what all is in here in the way of chests. I'm going to take a gamble here, because the crawl is really the only thing we have to worry about. The bones will hit us for some damage, but that's literally all they do, is some damage. If we can get to that crawl before it hits us. It ran away. Okay. Okay, not mad about that. Would have liked the money, but I'm much happier not sitting here forever and a day needing to think if I need to shave again while I'm paralyzed. Not a great payout, not a ton of experience, but it's a battle we won, and that's all we need to know. Hey, we picked up a large knife. That's a weapon that only a black mage could love. Monsters strike first. You have arachnids that can poison and then mucks that hit like a truck, but can be struck back, unlike the scum. We're going to fire 2 of these guys as well. Chip damage on 2 and 1 kill. Wow, that muck is really taking it to us. Nice thing about the arachnid poisoning us is all the threat's gone once it happens. Another thing they adjusted here is that the poison doesn't come off at the end of the round. It comes off when you act. And I can respect that. Better heal up a touch. 680 gold. Yeah, that made this run worthwhile. I don't think we'll press too much further because resources are starting to tighten up a little. And now 6 undead. Hope and pray, folks. We got one more fire 2 in the chamber. Let's hope for an early roll here. Nope. Paralyzed out of the chute. Will all of this have been for naught? Majority of these guys aren't really even hitting us for tangible damage. It's just the occasional crit. And of course, every time we see we're still paralyzed. Ay. Got to love the stun lock. The second. Just got that lock. Microcosm of the weak at large. Paralysis wore off and then wore right the heck back on. Hate to see that in the middle of the round. You don't often root for all of the monsters to attack you. This is an exception to that. I was going to soft reset here, but I say we ride it out because you never know. You just never know. Plus, I mean, it's the same either way. Either way you look at it, even if I do die here, we're just going to respawn outside the cave, and none of this mattered. See, they build up hope there with the recovery. Coming dangerously close to under 100 hit points. There it is, the double digit. Yeah, it's way too early in the round. Old school gaming. Yeah, I don't think we're pulling up on this one in time. That was actually our opportunity right there, right at the end of the round. And we were still paralyzed, and we are still paralyzed. And at this point, we are effectively dead. Paralysis is worn off. Doesn't look like it. And then we got paralyzed again. I did say we're going to ride it out, so let's go to the bitter end here. There ain't much more thread on the coil, as it were. Down right at 10, now under 10, and we're still paralyzed. This is solo run hell. Now, I want to remind you, we did just get a large knife and 680 gold, and it all just went away. So like I said, we're going to go into the Cave of Marsh here. See, that I can appreciate. I can appreciate a good tail kicking. And look at that. The first enemies we hit in this cave. It's like they're stream sniping. When the monsters in the game have you stream sniped. That is just crazy. Crazy. The third. I may borrow that for the title. I may actually rename this once we're done. Not going to make you sit through that again. We will softly reset there. Oh, thank goodness, only poison. Also love how we have the delineation of arachnid and spider. Back in the day when the difference between monsters was the color palette on the model. No more uh-oh. Don't say that too quick. You never know. Turn right back around and hit those 6 again. The undead gang. Kind of owned us. Ooh, I am poisoned. That grating sound there will forever haunt me. Won't stop me from forgetting about it in battle. But the moment you start moving in that overworld, that for me is nails on a chalkboard. Okay, this one won't be too bad. Gonna go after the muck first because it hits the hardest. But not if we get it out of the way first. Now the arachnid, because for whatever reason, I'm sort of telling myself the arachnid poisons more frequently. I could just be making that all up in my head. I feel like it does, though. Again, I cannot understate this enough. Like, you have those games that are sort of defining of your gamer history, and this one is definitely one of mine. I remember it's probably the first time I ever got annoyed at a school friend because I had a pretty good run going, and I loaned them my cartridge so they could check it out over the weekend, and they wiped my save file. They accidentally wiped it. We're going to leave accidentally in quotes there, but they didn't bring it back for a couple weeks. I kind of realized something was up when I asked them about it. They're like, yeah, we'll bring it back. And they're like, we're sorry. We kind of forgot where you were. And I'm like, what? But yeah, they started fooling around with it and wiped it. So I had to go back from the beginning and start all over again. Blessing in disguise on that, honestly. We get a chance to strike first. Now, what I should do here is run. But I'm going to try and confuse these suckers. I want to see gargoyles slash each other to death. I'm going to turn this into Disney's Gargoyles, the stage show. Nice. So they are going to hit themselves pretty hard here. Middle one's confusion wore off, so that's our clear target. Oh, it was the lower one that wore off. My mistake. And one I'm paying for. Not so shabby overall, though. Get our cash money. Now, here we go. No whammies. And by that, I mean a half dozen undead. Looking to paralyze us to hell. 2 arachnids and a spider. Who thought we'd be so happy to see spiders everywhere, huh? Maybe you're not. If you have arachnophobia, I apologize. I should not be joking like that. And if you don't, you probably don't care either way. How are we doing on the old experience check? Okay. So we knocked out about a third. Murakami says they love spiders. Nice. I'm sort of indifferent on them. I get their function. I don't mind them. My wife is terrified of them. So they cannot stay in the house. Here we have some shadows, which are undead, but they're undead that'll give us darkness, which isn't really that big a deal. I have a friend that wants a tarantula. They already have 2 snakes and 2 dogs and a cat. They had a bunny. Got a nice little collection of isopods to clean the snake tanks. Used to have fish. You love cats too. My wife's a cat person. My son's a cat person. We have a cat. The cat's a cat person, I guess. Honestly, the cat doesn't like anything. Cat likes me because I'm large and comfy. Anytime I lay on the couch, I end up having a cat laying on me. And hey, we survived the cave run. We got our gold and got oot. Still not out of the woods, though. Technically, we're not out of the swamp. Honestly, at this point in life, I think I'd be fine with a house plant. I think that's the level of... My cat's getting old, too. Got her back in 2011. Actually, the day after our wedding. It was sort of the topic I kept pushing off. Because when we got engaged, we were still renting. Shortly thereafter, we were able to purchase the house. And then it was, when are we getting a cat? When are we getting a cat? And I'm like, geez, at the time, Shell was going to school. Like, I was working. I wasn't making a ton of money. It was just sort of a, let's figure out the wedding thing. And my goodness, is that a story. But literally the day after the wedding, it was, okay, the wedding's done now. I'm like, yeah. So we went down to the shelter, and we got a cat that day. And there is your boring my life story, brought to you by a grumpy old disembodied voice. Oh. Some cats are just tiny. My God, this thing, my cat, when we got it, was so tiny. And I remember the tiny days. They were the fun days. Still tiny after a year. That is kind of crazy. But some just stay small. Quickly running out of our slot 3s. We can convert the slot 1s to 3s. It just takes a round in combat. I enjoyed the small cat days because it was a lot less noticeable when I got the jump out of nowhere in the middle of a nap. Also, the cat fit far more comfortably in places. I will say the cat kind of has my sense of humor. It's a black cat with a small white patch of fur. I'm an early riser. I tend to be up before sunrise quite a bit. Old job sort of necessitated that, and it's something that's just sort of worked into my natural rhythms. Damn cat sleeps at the top of the stairs. I don't like turning lights on in the morning because the missus is not a morning person. Wifey would not morning if boy did not school. So, and I'm conscious of that. I try and make as little noise and fuss, let them get what rest they can. But then I'm walking down a dark staircase and I just have to sort of hope that the cat isn't sleeping where I'm about to be stepping, or else it's going to get awkward, probably painful for at least 2 of us in the house. So far, been lucky for the most part, but every now and then, I've learned to sort of slide my feet as I go, but then you end up shoveling a cat with your foot a little bit, and that's an awkward sentence at any point. Just going to fire 2 of these because we're on the way back to town. Did not avoid the poison at all. This is also more cat talk than I have had in years. I'm sure my boy will appreciate that when he gets off grounding. But I don't hate the older cat thing. Because older cats just have 2 modes. There's the hyper, but the hyper is really just a couple minutes where they run around like the Tasmanian Devil of Looney Tunes fame, and occasionally gets a little destructive. Infamously killed a pair of headphones I had. My first headset, absolutely destroyed by the cat, not realizing where it should and shouldn't run. But aside from that, it's just chill out or get mad at shit. For whatever reason, the cat developed a rivalry with my son. I think it's because the room that my son uses used to just be a spare room, and the cat liked to hang out there. And the rivalry has come ever since. Wow. We actually made a nice bit of gold in there. So let's go ahead and buy. Not quite enough for our 3rd level 4 spell, which is going to be Ice 2. But I do enjoy the chill cat now. Every time I walk around throughout the day, it's just a matter of where the cat is sleeping now. Sometimes on top of the couch, sometimes in the cushion of a chair. For whatever reason, always the staircase at night. Well, you enjoy the world. Tabby from GU. Yeah, fan favorite there. Do thank you for stopping in, and always an enjoyable conversation. About halfway to our level goal. And then I will probably be hopping off myself, as I haven't eaten anything since about 5 o'clock yesterday. You were loose after all. Lucy, after all. Is it Lucy, or I'm assuming it's Lucy? I'm going to go with Lucy. Well, you have fun, and enjoy you some playing. I will be here doing the thing as I always do. Time for more Fire 2 fun. Actually, I can't wait to get through the peninsula here. Well, get through the marsh cave so I can get to the peninsula. Get my wires crossed. You could always tell when I get past the halfway point of a stream. Quality never high, but there's a certain drop off when the mine starts getting more into the mashed potato mode. Do we have enough to do Instay and Ice too? Oh yeah, more than enough. Building that red mage up quite well. Quite well. Maybe by the time we hit level 20. Yeah, Sleep 2 is kind of a waste as it's single target. I'm sure the odds are higher, but I've always felt it's a waste. Let's get our third element damage. And yeah, that's where we want to be. Saving that last level 1 spot for Blink, which will come after job change. Got our Invisible, Dark, and Mute. Very handy utility spells in level 2. Then levels 3 and 4 are our money makers, essentially. The amazing thing I've learned here, and I don't know if they reworked the stats at all, I don't think they have, but when it comes to Final Fantasy armor, Red Mage is still best off with the chainmail you get at Corneria all the way to this point. Snake's just running away. My main party for this, in Renaissance mode specifically, I've actually started subbing in a summoner in place of the thief. The summons in this game are fantastic. At some point, I really have to go back and restart that run to catch some of the neat things. Of course, there are people who have covered this game. It was white hot there around the holidays. I had picked it up and started playing it sometime around Thanksgiving. It was already sort of hitting its peak as a phenomenon then. I want to say it's been waning since about Christmas. Really kind of been wasting time on these wolves. All this time I'm trying to dodge damage and they're just running away. We may get 1 kill out of this. That's what I get for the setup, huh? Well, either way, it didn't cost us any time. It gave us a little money. 2 ogres, we must confuse. It is compulsory. Now, if I do run a one-shot today, I have a few. I don't like just pulling out precons for one-shots. I have a few choices. And I have one that I'm specifically not going to run, and it's a one-shot that I wrote while I was at work, just to see how many references to Total Eclipse of the Heart I could get into a single D&D adventure. And I literally put the bones together at work, wrote it on a piece of scratch paper that I had after making some signs. And it ended up turning into 2 quests, which was silly and dumb. I tried running it once. And the missus kind of quit on me about an hour and a half in to a one shot because she was tired. Middle of the day, and she was just tired. Just one of those days. But I just haven't been able to bring myself to run it ever since. Still have the paperwork. I'm pretty sure it's actually sitting underneath this very stool on the little bracket area. I keep some loose papers and the plastic chessboard my son got me for Christmas a couple years back. It's my go-to for a quick game of chess around the house. But I've actually got a bunch of maps, bunch of old maps that I've transpired into some graph paper. And what I'll do is I'll just framework out a rough adventure, set a couple of end goal conditions, populate the dungeon, do a couple wandering monster tables, and just run with that. Yet another reason I gush quite intensely over Shadow Dark is it's a real nice plug and play system. You're not fussing with a whole bunch. You're not spending 3 hours creating a character for 2 hours of gameplay. I could do precons, but the guest of the evening has never played the system. And while the argument could be made that a precon is the best way to do it, I'm a warts and all type person. I like the person to be able to dig in, make the character they want, and with a less is more system, a simpler system, I think that usually works out for the best. Could really get down to the core that they want, build for that, and let it go from there. Also, if there's something they want to do that's outside of those exact parameters, it's improv either way. Not sure the route I'll go on this. I'll probably lean more into the undead as a monster base. One, knowing my guest. Two, knowing my mini dispersion. Got lots of goblins and lots of skeletons. I need to invest in more minis. I really need to head on and see if the old paper standees from like the second edition modules, if anyone has some old collections of those they're willing to ship for cheap. I love those things. They're nice and portable. You could fit 1,000,000 of them in one of those boxes. I have a couple of those boxes left over. Got a little bit of poison here. Finally remembered to cast the spell before walking off. Get a good first strike here. Do have to check something real quick, so I do apologize. I'm going to pull up the status screen, going to walk away for a moment, and I will be right back momentarily. Okay, we are back. Apologize for those who were popping in during the delay. This is a grumpy old guy gaming, and once again, if you are just coming in, running some Final Fantasy Red Mage solo play here. This is Final Fantasy Renaissance. As you can see, we've got our Red Mage Teal'co up to level 16, and we are going to grind out the last couple thousand points here to level 17. Hopefully get the evade to 0. Working our way to the marsh cave here. Actually made a foray in here. 2 forays in here. One went woefully unsuccessfully as we were just bludgeoned by 6 undead that felt the need to paralyze us forever and a day. Got to love beating up gray wolves. I don't know why. You just gotta. Probably because this was another early game challenge enemy. Like, you got through the wolves, and they weren't the toughest enemy, but they hit harder than imps at the beginning of the game. You're like, okay, what's a gray one going to do? And then it hits you, and like half your hit points are gone. It was sort of the whoa moment. Silly Geist. If you come at the red mage, you best not miss the paralyzed chance. Honestly, I'm grateful there because that Geist could have wiped us. Chance to strike first. Should just go with the old tried and true. Tried and true, fire 2. We even took out an ogre in one shot with fire 2 earlier. I don't know if he dialed up. I think the intelligence stat may have been fixed from the original Final Fantasy and the Renaissance reworking, which still doesn't make a ton of sense why Red Mage is hitting that high, because it was really meant to favor Black Mage, unless Black Mage hits like an absolute truck on elemental magics. I do know Black Mage has a sort of passive buff to their elemental damage as a class ability. If you pull up the skills tab here, you can see the Red Mage has no combat abilities, which technically isn't true. Its limit will be unlocked at the job change, but again, that's the refresh ability, which doesn't work in a solo play. No world abilities. Some characters have world abilities, like the summoner can go into the astral plane and track down summons that way. And the thief can actually find hidden caches, stashes of money and items just hidden throughout the world. Now, the Red Mage does have a couple of traits. The first one, for those of you playing in more modern iterations of Final Fantasy, and you'll have to excuse me, for myself, more modern iterations of Final Fantasy is anything that came out 2000 or later. Saboteur is going to make a ton of sense to you. That's a magic accuracy boost when using enfeebling magic on enemies. So things like Confuse, Sleep, and Darkness are going to hit far more efficiently and effectively with the Red Mage, which I'm a huge fan of, because in the original, they were honestly spells I skipped. Back in the day, if a spell didn't do damage or wasn't implicit for a sub-boss, like mute on spellcasting enemies, I just didn't bother. The other trait is Megas Adept, which allows them to learn core white and black magic spells, which means none of your super fancy, life 2s or whatnot. I do believe Red Wizard can learn the first life spell, which is once again something we'll be skipping in a solo run. Let's sleep the doggos. There are days I miss having a dog, as we do more random pet talk from me. Just been sort of a muddled day in general. Did a lot of talking with Murakami, Lucy on the Netslum Discord about house pets. And again, I will reiterate at this point, the perfect pet for me is a houseplant. It sits there. I sit there. Two more wolves. Make that one. Need to see more ogres. Can't argue with that timing, can I? Take a little pop there, 11 damage. Kind of forgot how quickly numbers scaled up in the first Final Fantasy. Really didn't need to fire two here, but we may as well get some damage in on two enemies in a round rather than just one. Almost took out the ogre. I want to say the ogre has in the neighborhood of 96 hit points, if I remember correctly. We'll check the bestiary after this. We've already loaded it once today, so it should load quickly. Love when a plan comes together. Now, one thing I should point out is that the bestiary is actually, okay, it's an even 100. I always thought 96. I mean, close enough. But the bestiary is saved between all of your active save files. So this broom here is a challenge enemy from one of these summoner summons. I want to say Kate Sith. You get to fight the brooms because you find it in Matoya's cave. So that's kind of neat that it saves all that. Now, it's not going to have the fiends unlocked for me because they added the bestiary after I had beat the game once. I guess it would have saved had I kept that save file, but well. God, I remember unfolding that map so many times. It's probably where I got my love of maps. Just looking at game worlds. Another fun fact about me. I'm a sucker for a good map. Even a bad map. Because most bad maps are just good maps with incomplete or inaccurate information. One time to practice her art skills, the missus took the map from the NES port of Uncharted Waters and fiddled around with it and made it all antique looking and everything. And that was my computer background for about 4 or 5 years there. It was my background for 2 computers. It only got replaced because Wizardry got remastered. May have seen that pop up a couple times on the channel here, to much fanfare. I may add, happy to see that Wizardry still gets the love 40 years on. But my current background is actually the old splash image they had before their last major update, where it had the dragon sort of coiled around the blade of a longsword. Because sword and dragon, like, as classic RPG iconography as you could get. I was actually debating between playing Wizardry or playing Final Fantasy today, but I don't know. It's cold, it's rainy. Just kind of needed to settle into something nice and comfy and relaxing, and Final Fantasy is going to hit that mark. Always for me. Could do without the crepes, but I think that's a world commentary in general. don't. That is a sensitive R2 press there. I literally just shifted the controller in my hand. But we got to level 17 and another high roll on the old hit points. Okay, now I know what's happening. Controller just shifted a little, got a little out of whack there. That's why it suddenly brought the map up out of nowhere. But hey, it's fun to see the map, right? Weird that it waited till literally the level up to go wonky. But I guess you'll have this from time to time with technology. Let's get back to the inn and save her up. I do appreciate everybody that stopped by and watched this, both live and in subsequent rewatching. Do appreciate it when you all stop in and comment, and it certainly is fun to talk just gaming in general. This has been a grumpy old guy gaming with one red mage this time and nothing else. I'm sure I'll see you sometime in the near future. Not sure what I'm going to be doing. Like I said, I was working on a fragment project. I don't know how that's going to go at this point. I don't think it is going to go at this point. But what was done was fun. Meantime, you all take care. We'll see you around.